Today I'm going to be rebuilding a little outboard gear case, changing the prop shaft seal, drive shaft seal, shift shaft seal, and putting the whole thing back together. Thought this would be a good one to video. Although this is a little outboard gear case, it's only a 5 horsepower Tohatsu or Mercury. The principles are very similar, even if it's a 250 horsepower. They've still got a prop shaft, drive shaft, shift shaft, and they've got seals on them. So yeah, it's quite a good one to check it out, and yeah, will definitely help if you're planning on changing seals in your gear case. All right, let's have a look at what we're looking at. So here's a complete one without the drive shaft. Here's the parts from the inside of it. You don't need to pull it apart this much if you're just doing a prop shaft seal, but this is the rear bearing carrier that sits in the back here. And these have a seal just inside here. This here is the pump case lower, which the drive shaft sits through, and this has a seal here. And this little part here is the seal which seals the shift shaft. I will be replacing all of the seals in those things and then putting all of this bits and pieces back into a gear case. It will be going into this gear case here, which, ignore the shape of it, that is a modified gear case for a 5 horsepower, just trying something. Anyway, there'll be a video on this later if you're interested in performance stuff, but yeah, this video is about, basically rebuilding a gear case. So we'll start with removing this bearing in here so that I can get to the prop shaft seals in this rear bearing carrier. I have removed the rubber seal around here already. So I need to push this bearing out. That one's actually, this gear case has had water in it. I'm replacing that as well. So I have, many years ago, bent the end of a screwdriver, heated it up and bent it for this exact reason. So I can put that down inside, down into the lip of that bearing, and I should be able to tap it out. I'll work each side of it. I won't just work one side. Gently tap each side so that it will come out square. So I'll get into that now. I felt that sort of move a little bit then. Just gently work each side of it. There we go. So the bearing's out. And now I need to remove the oil seal here. So same thing, got to try and get my bent screwdriver in and work out that seal. And it is quite hard. Try and, as you remove a seal as well, remember which way up it was, because there's inside and outside often of these seals. So as it plops out, we'll put the new one back in the same way round. All right, so you can see the seals. There we go. So you can see that came out that way. Definitely has a different shape each side. So I'll be putting the new one back in same way around. So more open on the inside of the gear case on this particular model. Okay, so that's all degreased the rear bearing carrier. There's my new oil seal. Again, going to go in the same way as the other one came out. Now you can find a socket that is the same diameter as the outside of the seal, and you can use that to gently tap it in square. So I'll show you how to do that. Make sure you're not tapping it in on an angle. Definitely needs to go in square. All right, we've got the bearing here. You can do the same thing. The right size socket, same as the outside diameter. Again, you must make sure you tap it in square. All right, that's seated nicely. Right, so that's new seals in the rear bearing carrier. Done. So now I can slip the prop shaft back in. Just put a little bit of gear case lube on everything, including that bearing in there, which I've already done. And push it through that oil seal. Nice, all right. So if that was all you were doing is the rear prop shaft seal, that's all you'd do, and then you'd reinstall this with a new O-ring there, and yeah, prop shaft seal would be done. Here we have the drive shaft seal in the pump case lower. So I'm gonna see if I can tap this one out. This being such a small motor, it is a bit tricky to get my bent screwdriver in there. So I've got a sharpened small screwdriver, and I'll see if I can just get it into the edge of this seal. There it is. Again, this had the larger side down into the gear case, so I'll clean this up and I'll install a new seal. So I've got the new seal in there. Again, we're going to use a, just appropriate sized socket. It's the same size as the outside diameter, so it's pressing on the steel. I'm using these so that you can see, I mean, this is something you can do at home if you have the confidence. So just gently tapping this in, making sure we're square. Looks good. Awesome. So that's your drive shaft seal done. Okay, now that that forward bearing is installed in the gear case, I can go ahead and put the forward gear in. So basically just gonna drop that in there, and that slides down into that bearing. All right, the easiest way I've found to get these tiny little O-rings, the shift shaft seal, inside the housing here is to use your shift shaft and move it up inside this little housing until the top of that meets the base of where this little O-ring sits, and then force this down to the hole. Without that, you're just going to end up pushing this right through. So just try and pinch this and get it down inside the hole, and that shift shaft should turn it sideways, and then use something blunt to push it all down inside, and it should, like that, pop into the groove. Easy. All right, so I'm about to install the drive shaft assembly into the lower unit. Now you just need to be careful. These are some shims I have from another gear case, just to show you what they are, very thin shims. Got to make sure that you don't lose any of the shims that are like placed in certain places in your lower unit as you're pulling it apart. Make sure they go back in the same order and the same side of everything. It's just important so that basically it's the lash setting, how much play there is in between this pinion gear and the forward and reverse gears. So yeah, that's what the shims are for, don't lose them. All right, so I've got to get that little pinion gear to sit in the right spot down here. Which I've done. And then I've already put the gasket on that pump case lower with a little bit of Permatex, which is a gasket sealing compound. Not a silicone based one though, it's a permanently flexible one. All right, so just gently work that in. There we go. You've got to see that pinion gear inside there turning the forward gear. So that's good. Now for the shift shaft, I'll just put the O-ring there Might even put a tiny bit. Of sealer around that. I'll slip that in. There we go. Just put a little bit of grease on that shifter retainer. And then from there, it's basically the normal water pump or the impeller install, which we'll do now too. Right, so we've got a gasket, impeller plate, put the new impeller on. I'm just trying to find the keyway in that impeller. Okay. And I'll turn the shaft clockwise when I push it into that pump case. There we go. And then we'll just do up all of the impeller bolts, just grease them up. So normally I'd have this gear case in a gear case stand. I'm just showing you can do this stuff just on a bench. A bit harder, but it's not overly hard. Alright, so now I'm going to slide the prop shaft and rear bearing carrier assembly in. I've put a new O-ring on here and lubed it up a little bit, and I've lubed up where it seats inside the gear case. Make sure my shift pin and all of that stuff is in position, and I will just basically slide this in. There we go. Tighten up those two and it's done. Put the oil in. Okay, so now this gearbox has been rebuilt. I'm going to put new gear case lube or gear case oil in the gear case. I have my drain screws and filler screws, new gaskets on those, ready to go. So with these gear cases, you fill them from the bottom. So basically just pump the oil in from the base and it slowly fills up in the gear case, and once it comes out this top fill hole, you know you're full, you put the top screw in, you remove this one here as quickly as you can, and you put the bottom screw in. So we will keep pumping until we see oil come out the top. Alright, so it started to come out that top now, you can see a few bubbles come out. Just tighten that one up. Alright, so that's sealed that, and then I'll undo this. I've got my drain screw ready to put in there. Oh, here we go. Awesome. Done.